Welcome to the Word on Wednesday. This is your midweek online Bible study and devotion at Macville Christian Church. Today's Wednesday, July the 2nd, 2025, and it's good to be back with you after a scheduling mixed up caused me to cancel what we had planned to do last week. We hope to have that taped and show that video to you very, very soon. You know, we've had so many good things going on at Macville. I'm just so excited about what the Lord's been doing at our congregation of late. This past Sunday was our Youth Sunday, and again, several of our church young people took over in the services. And I preached from Matthew chapter 19, as Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me and not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom of heaven." Folks, we can learn so much from little children and their attitudes. If you've not listened to Sunday's message, I encourage you to do so. It's linked to our church Facebook page, and I hope that you and I will develop those attitudes of trust, of truth-seeking, and never lose that sense of wonder that about what God has done for us. As the song that I referenced in Sunday's sermon says, it's amazing to believe that God so loved the world means even me. Let's never forget that. Now, you know, Friday is the 4th of July. Officially, it's called Independence Day. It commemorates the day when our founding fathers of the United States adopted the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia. Those leaders had actually voted to break from Great Britain 2 days earlier, July 2nd, 249 years ago today. But the formal document and the formal declaration was not signed and adopted until July the 4th. It's that distinctive date in our nation's history. You know, while my ultimate allegiance is to Jesus Christ and His church, I'm thankful to live in a country. I'm thankful to live in the United States of America. I'm thankful to live in a country that was founded upon a freedom to worship God, our Creator. Bob Russell penned an excellent column on his website this week, and is entitled, "No King But King Jesus. A declaration worth remembering this July 4th." And in that column, he noted several distinguishing characteristics that America was founded upon. You know, we often talk about people coming to America for religious freedom, which is true. But do we always understand what that entails? See, in Great Britain, the only church was the official Church of England, the only one that was recognized by the government. And if you were wanting to avoid persecution, you had to worship in accordance with the Church of England's rules. Many didn't agree, and so they sought to come to America to worship as they saw fit. Now, while these people had many reasons for breaking off from England, the cry, "No King but King Jesus," summarized the feelings of many people in colonial America. It was a cry throughout the Revolutionary War. And then you think about it, and Bob Russell talked about this. He talked about that many of our prestigious colleges, such as Harvard, such as Yale, Princeton, these were all founded as religious institutions. So if you haven't already done so, I hope you go back to our Facebook page and read this great column Bob Russell wrote as we approach our nation's 249th birthday. You know, like many of you, I have some history in this country, you might say. My great-grandfather fought in the Civil War. Yes, I'm only 3 generations removed from that horrible conflict. But my great-grandfather did fight in the Civil War. An uncle of mine was in the U.S. Navy during World War I. My father was a veteran of the Pacific Theater in World War II. His older brother was in the Army Air Corps serving in Europe. My mother's brother was a member of Patton's Third Army during World War II. And many of you can cite similar heritage. Like me, I'm sure that you're proud of that heritage because we have reason to be. But you know, I think about what America has meant to this world. Several years ago, when I was still working in the newspaper business, I had the privilege of interviewing someone of Jewish heritage whose parents had survived the Holocaust in Poland. They were liberated when American soldiers came upon their concentration camp there in Poland and freed them from the Germans. She said she is always thankful for the American soldier because of that. You know, when Stephanie and I recently visited Washington, D.C., we toured the Holocaust Museum and we were appalled at the things we saw, the pictures, the artifacts, the things that we saw there. We were just so appalled by it, even though we knew this was something that had happened 80 years ago. But we noted several times to each other the moral authority that General Eisenhower exhibited in his resolve to aid the people, to punish evil, and to make sure the world knew about what happened and that the world would not forget it. He wanted to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. That's consistent with the principles our country was founded upon. Remember, no king but King Jesus. And in the Declaration of Independence, which is really just an explanation of why the 13 colonies were breaking off from Great Britain, it says in the first sentence of the second paragraph, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." If you look through history, you will see that time and again the leaders of our country call upon God and call upon people in the country to pray. People can try to deny that Christian influence, but folks, the facts say otherwise. There's been a huge Christian influence here in America. So what does that mean to us today? Well, I think first of all is we need to be very thankful for our founding fathers. Yes, these men were flawed men, just like you and me. Many of them lived paradoxically. They said all men are created equal, yet many of them owned slaves. But I believe this country emerged with God's blessing because of their expressions of faith. You know, we might disagree on how they practice Christianity, but you've got to remember, we're looking at them in hindsight. We have the history of 249 years behind us. But their acknowledgement of God cannot be denied. You know, in Romans chapter 13, verse 1, we're told, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God." That almost sounds like no king but King Jesus. You know, what stands out to me, these people that were here in the colonies fighting for independence, what really stands out to me is these people were willing to fight, even die, for the right to worship God as they wanted. It's really kind of sobering, you know, when you think about it. I mean, these people were willing to give their lives for their independence. And part of that independence was based on religious freedom, the freedom to worship as we want. It is sobering. It blows my mind to think of that desire and that commitment. So what else can we do? I pray that we will regain that same commitment in America today, and it starts with you and I. It starts with you and me, rather. It starts with you and me. You know, I've often cited statistics that chronicled the decline of church attendance in America over the last 100 years or so, and how it's so accelerated since the year 2000, and it has accelerated even more since COVID 5 years ago. Folks, I believe we're in dire need of revival in America. So what can you do if we're to have revival in America, if we're to have revival in Macville? It's not a matter of just bringing in some dynamic speaker and all. It all comes from our own hearts. We have to make that commitment to worship together and to take part and to work together in God's church. I preach a lot about church attendance and its need for primacy in our own lives. Folks, it's not everything about our Christian walk. You can attend a church and still not be walking with the Lord. But when we do attend, it is an indicator of our commitment to our Lord and to each other. You know, in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25, we're told to meet together to encourage one another. Listen to what the writer of Hebrews says. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Let us consider how to stir one another to love and good works. We're to pick each other up. We're to lead others to greater service with Jesus. So what can you do? I pray that you'll throw aside everything that hinders you from serving Christ in any way. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 say, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith." That means to us today, never neglect that freedom we have to worship and worship freely. We're in a very unique and favored position compared to most Christians throughout history. My prayer is you appreciate that freedom that you have. You appreciate that uniqueness you have as an American, and that you don't neglect the wonderful opportunities you have to worship, you have to learn, and you have to serve. Folks, those freedoms are precious. Let's be proud. Let's be bold and exercise them, lifting up God's name above all names. Folks, I love you very much. I hope you have a great Independence Day, and we'll see you Sunday at Macville Christian Church. See you for Sunday school at 9:30 and worship at 10:30. See you then. Take care.